Silence doesn't always mean what it looks like on the surface. When a woman says nothing, it isn't the same as not feeling anything. Most of the time, it means there's too much happening inside her to put into words. She isn't calm. She isn't detached. She's thinking, replaying, questioning, and trying to hold her emotions in check at the same time. The quiet you hear is not peace. It is tension wrapped in pride. She doesn't reach out because she is scared of what that message would mean. One text would expose that you still matter. It would admit that your absence left a mark. For someone who values control, that level of honesty feels dangerous. So instead, she stays quiet and convinces herself it's strength. In reality, it's fear mixed with uncertainty. While you sit there wondering why she hasn't checked on you, her mind is circling the same questions again and again. Does he miss me? Has he moved on? Did I make a mistake? That internal conversation never stops. It plays in the background of her day. She might be laughing with friends or scrolling through her phone, but one small reminder can pull you right back into her thoughts. A song, a familiar place, a random memory. Suddenly, she's back in a moment you shared. What makes it worse for her is your calm. She expected you to react, to chase, to demand answers. When you didn't, it changed the entire dynamic in her head. Instead of feeling powerful, she started feeling unsure. Instead of feeling missed, she started wondering if she was the one being forgotten. That shift is uncomfortable, and that discomfort keeps you alive in her mind. Silence isn't closing the door for her. It's trapping her in a room full of unanswered emotions, and every thought inside that room seems to carry your name. You start noticing the shift in yourself before anyone else does. It is quiet, almost unnoticeable at first. You wake up without checking your phone, without wondering who has not texted, without replaying old conversations in your head. The noise that once filled your mind begins to thin out. You still remember, but the memories feel distant now, like photos left out in the sun. They are there, but the sharpness has faded. You begin to observe your own patterns. The way you used to over-explain. The way you tried to fix things that were never yours to fix. The way you waited for answers that were never going to come. Instead of judging yourself for it, you finally understand it. You are acting from a place of needing connection, not weakness. That realization alone changes everything. There are moments when the silence feels heavy. Not because you miss the person, but because you are now sitting with yourself fully. No distractions. No emotional chaos. Just you and the truth. And in that truth, you start to feel something unexpected. Peace. A steady kind of calm that does not depend on another person's validation. You begin to move differently through your day. You speak less, but with purpose. You listen more, but you do not absorb everything. You choose your time and energy with intention. And slowly, without drama, without announcements, you rebuild your sense of worth from the inside out. Not because you want to prove anything, but because you finally believe you deserve better. You start to notice how the world reacts to your stillness. Not in a dramatic way, but in subtle shifts. People speak a little softer around you. They pause before interrupting. Your calm becomes a mirror, and in it, others see their own restlessness. You are no longer pulled into every emotional current that passes your way. Instead, you stand steady, and that steadiness changes the atmosphere without you saying a word. There was a time when you thought strength meant explaining yourself. Clearing misunderstandings. Making sure everyone knew your side of the story. Now you understand that real strength doesn't need a defense team. It holds its ground in silence and lets the truth reveal itself on its own timeline. Not everyone will understand that, and you have made peace with it. You catch yourself smiling at simple things again. A quiet morning. A clean workspace. A good workout. These small moments that once went unnoticed now feel grounded and real. Your energy is no longer split between past and present. It lives where you are. Fully. And because of that, you start to feel more alive than you have in a long time. You also become more selective. With conversations. With commitments. With who gets access to your inner world. This is not about closing your heart. It is about protecting it. You've learned that attention is currency, and you no longer spend it where there is no return. And as the days stack up, something powerful happens. You stop thinking about healing. You are simply living it. There comes a moment when you realize you no longer carry the weight you once thought was permanent. The heaviness that lived in your chest, the quiet pressure behind your eyes, it has loosened without any grand ceremony. You did not notice the exact second it happened. It simply faded as you kept choosing yourself, again and again, in small consistent ways. You start to trust your own decisions more. You no longer need to run them by someone else or look for approval in familiar places. That independence feels strange at first, then empowering. You take your time with choices, and because of that, the path in front of you feels clearer. Not perfect, but yours. The idea of connection begins to look different too. You are no longer longing for someone to complete something inside you. Instead, you are curious about who might add to the piece you have already built. That subtle change in perspective shifts everything. It removes desperation and replaces it with standards. You notice the way you hold yourself has changed. Your shoulders are more relaxed. Your voice is steady. Eye contact is no longer a challenge. These are small signals, but they reflect something deeper. You have stopped shrinking. You have stopped apologizing for simply existing. There are still moments when the past tries to knock on the door. A song, a place, a familiar scent. But now you watch those memories pass without inviting them in. You understand that honoring the past does not require you to live in it. And in this quiet, confident space, you finally understand what it feels like to be whole on your own. You begin to live with a sense of direction that comes from within, not from the expectations of others. Your goals feel clearer, and even when uncertainty shows up, it no longer shakes your foundation. You know now that confusion is just part of movement, not a sign that you are failing. That understanding gives you the courage to keep going, even when the next step is not fully visible. You stop romanticizing what hurt you. The past no longer has a glow around it. You see it for what it was, both the beauty and the damage, and that balanced view frees you. Gratitude replaces resentment, and lessons replace regret. It is not about pretending things were perfect or terrible. It is about seeing them honestly and growing beyond them. Your relationships start to change as well. You attract people who match your energy. Conversations feel more grounded, more honest. You feel less pulled toward drama and more drawn to depth. This is the result of the work you have done on yourself, even on the days when it felt like nothing was changing. You move through life with quiet confidence now. Not arrogance, not distance, just a calm understanding of who you are and what you bring to the world. You no longer chase validation, because you give it to yourself first. And in the end, you realize the most important thing. Healing did not make you colder. It made you clearer. It did not take away your ability to feel. It gave you control over which feelings deserve your time. And in that clarity, you finally step into the strongest, most authentic version of yourself. You move forward now with a sense of responsibility for your own life that once felt unfamiliar. There is no one to blame, no one to wait for, and strangely, that feels freeing. You understand that every choice you make, even the small and quiet ones, is shaping the direction you are headed. That awareness brings a new level of intention to your days. You think a little more before you speak. You plan a little more before you act. Not out of fear, but out of respect for yourself. You begin setting boundaries without guilt. You no longer feel the need to explain them or soften them so others stay comfortable. Your peace has become non-negotiable. Some people fade away as a result, and while that stings for a moment, you know it is a necessary shedding. Everyone who stays does so because they honor the level you now operate on. That makes those connections deeper and more real. There is also a renewed relationship with solitude. Being alone no longer feels like an empty space waiting to be filled. It feels like a private room where you can think clearly, breathe deeply, and reconnect with who you are becoming. In that space, creativity returns. Ideas start flowing again. You find yourself drawn to things that make you better, not just things that distract you. You start building routines that support your growth. Healthy habits. Consistent effort. Small promises to yourself that you now actually keep. Every time you follow through, your confidence strengthens a little more. Self-trust, once broken, is being rebuilt brick by brick. And you realize that this version of you, the one who survived the silence and learned from it, is someone you genuinely respect. That is a powerful place to stand. You start to see your life as something you are actively shaping, not just reacting to. The days no longer blur together the way they used to. Each one feels like it has a purpose, even if that purpose is simple. A focused workout. A meaningful conversation. A quiet evening where you reflect instead of scroll. These moments add up, and in them, you recognize the person you are becoming. You also become more honest with yourself. You catch your own excuses before they turn into habits. When you feel resistance, you don't run from it, and you don't attack yourself for it either. You listen to it. You ask what it is trying to show you. That level of self-awareness becomes one of your greatest strengths. It keeps you grounded in moving forward at the same time. Discipline, once something you associated with pressure, now feels like a form of care. You are not punishing yourself into change. You are guiding yourself into a better life. That shift in mindset makes consistency easier. You no longer try to do everything at once. You focus on the next right step, then the next one after that. People start noticing the change, even if they don't know how to name it. They feel more at ease around you. They trust you more. Not because you are trying to impress them, but because you are no longer trying to be anyone else. That authenticity is rare, and it shows. There are still challenges ahead. You know that. But now, instead of dreading them, you feel prepared for them. You trust your ability to handle what comes. And that trust is not blind optimism. It is built on evidence. You have already overcome more than you thought you could. With every step, you are no longer just healing. You are building a life that feels solid, true, and deeply your own. You begin to feel a sense of alignment between who you are and how you live. The gap that once made you feel restless and disconnected has narrowed. Your thoughts, your actions, and your values are starting to speak the same language. That inner agreement creates a quiet confidence that stays with you throughout the day. You are not performing for anyone. You are simply being. You notice how much more energy you have now that you are not carrying emotional weight that was never meant to be yours. Your mind feels clearer. Your body feels lighter. Even the way you move through space feels more intentional. You take up the space you need without apology, and you give space to others without resentment. That balance feels natural, not forced. There is a new patience in the way you approach your goals. You are no longer rushing outcomes or comparing your progress to someone else's timeline. You understand that real change happens slowly, and you are willing to honor the process. Instead of feeling behind, you finally feel on time. On your own time. You start trusting life again. Not in a naive way, but in a grounded, realistic way that accepts uncertainty as part of the journey. You know setbacks may come, and yet you do not live in constant anticipation of them. You remain open. That openness is not weakness. It is a sign of strength and resilience. Your relationship with the idea of love also shifts. You no longer see it as something that must be chased or earned through sacrifice. You see it as something that flows naturally when two people meet in honesty and mutual respect. And until that happens, you are more than enough for yourself. In this steady, grounded place, you finally understand that healing was never about going back to who you were. It was always about becoming who you are meant to be. By now, you have reached a place where your presence alone carries weight, not because you demand attention, but because you have cultivated a depth that cannot be ignored. The man you were, defined by reaction and need, has quietly transformed into someone who commands respect simply through consistency, calm, and self-possession. You are no longer tethered to the validation of others, you generate it from within. That internal stability becomes magnetic, not loud or flashy, but undeniable. You notice the difference in how people respond to you. They are drawn not to what you can give them in the moment, but to the sense of assurance and security that comes from being around someone grounded. Conversations feel different. Connections feel different. The energy you put out no longer seeks approval, it invites authenticity. It is a subtle power, the kind that leaves an impression without any effort. Even when thoughts of the past try to creep in, they no longer unsettle you. You acknowledge them, learn from them, and let them pass without clinging. Your focus is forward, yet you carry the lessons of what was, not the weight of regret. Every memory, every heartbreak, every silence you endured has been refined into clarity and self-understanding. You see now that patience is not waiting, it is building, growing, evolving in a deliberate way. Every small act of self-respect, every boundary you maintained, every moment you chose calm over reaction has accumulated into something tangible. You are proof that silence, reflection, and emotional discipline are not passive, they are powerful. And in this final stage, you recognize the most important truth: your life, your growth, and your peace were never contingent on anyone else's choices. You are whole. You are enough. And that completeness is something no absence, no silence, and no regret can ever take from you.